describe boredom?
When your mind is looking for entertainment.
When your mind is quiet and you think it shouldn't be.
There's not a comfortable quiet kind of thing.
Yeah, it's
Like
not a comfortable quiet. It's like, there should be something here. This is not stimulating.
Something's missing.
Something's missing. Yeah, this is how I would describe
But
boredom.
the agitation
Something's
comes
missing.
from after. The boredom is just the coming to nothing to do or just
something's
so
missing.
boring.
Is that like a continuous kind of state for a bit, or is it kind of waves or something? How is it feel?
It's waves, and then I find something to do and then it just goes away and then I get bored of that thing to do.
I'm thinking of one particular person now who is in Satsang. Yeah. But until recently, I don't know. Because when she's here for a while, then she melts nicely into herself again and she seems to be fine. But there's a lot of resistance comes just before coming here. It's like, I don't know, and I feel like I'm not doing anything with my life, and it's like a particular feature in her life. I don't know if it's boredom is the right description, but a kind of restlessness that you need to be doing something with your life or something with this type of thing. And so she's never settled. For a while, a bit engaged, and then have to give it up and to pursue something else, but never really settled, never really dependable in that settledness. So I just wondered, it just came up to ask this question, how often do people experience states of boredom? What it mean? And do you bring it into the field of inquiry and look at it? And what is the result when you look at things? Can I ask also then, how many people actually employ inquiry?
I try, but when I'm in a state of boredom, and I'm not with you, when I'm with you it's very different, but on my own, then the state of boredom, I'm bored of inquiry. I find it boring and then I'm even trying to
So, you see, so that is what I call unsuccessful inquiry, because it's like reacting to a mental state about the inquiry rather than the inquiry itself. Because if I could really convey and really get you on board with the inquiry, really as it is, you would really so value and know that is really your own spiritual mirror that you look to really check in on yourself, because it's so effective. I know that when we talk and to try and explain things, it can feel more difficult. And from my point of view, like with the retreat, when we started, it can seem very mental, very complex, because the mind is in that type of region a lot. And so you cannot speak to it simply. It's like the most simple things, you're not yet there to really assimilate simplicity, respond to simplicity. It's like the mind is going through many complex shapes, and this is spread out in every different aspects of life. It's like we're meeting the life with very complex attention, very complex state of being. And it takes a while. That's why I say there's a period of time when there's a sort of like a slow meltdown, a kind of like a thawing out, you see, like a defrosting, where slowly the attention is becoming more into kind of like heart energy. When it comes more into heart energy, it's easier to communicate, because there's not so much resistance, there's not so much person. The more person there is in you, the more fight there is, the more this and thatness and this is right and that. You see, there's a lot of noise around it. But as the attention comes back again into the heart, your heart, natural heart, then communication is not so erratic, it's not so agitated. It's like you assimilate things, understand things much more easily. You're not so much in a sort of like what you may say reactionary states. There's more space in you. So when things are spoken, you're not so quick to respond, because quite often there's a lot of quickness to respond based upon a kind of protectiveness, because sometimes you feel, like, you don't want people to perceive you wrongly, so you're so quick to, so all of these tendencies, they're calming down, opening up, and there's more space. Then as the attention gets more acquainted with the heart, a different flow of energy is present, much more gentle, natural confidence, natural rest, and all of this, and a natural feeling that, but I know this. Then later it continues again. Sometimes it goes through an emotional layer for a while, and people feel very emotional, full of love, and then sometimes they want to tell you their real story, but that's still an aspect of mind. Then it becomes again even more down, becomes more cool and more space, less person. So there is a different stages of the mind more than of the being. As the mind floats down into the ocean of just being, then it doesn't keep its shape. It just melts out into being, that beingness, you see.
You said in Satsang one of these days about how the mind, it's like the sliding scale. From I'm the body to I'm the being. It's all mind. You hang out somewhere on that sliding bar. And that really struck me, But I think sometimes when the inquiry isn't working, it's because we're trying to find that state on the mental scale where we thought we had oneness, but it was really still a mental thing. And so it doesn't work. Because the premise of the whole thing is wrong.
I would like to really help or to guide you into that place where the inquiry never fails any more than a mirror can fail to reflect your image. The idea that when the inquiry doesn't work for me, that itself is some misunderstanding is there, because it never not works. When I speak about the mirror, like the mirror doesn't work, it just reflects. And there is something in the inquiry. Of course, we're using mind, sometimes coming from the place of identity. So initially it feels very difficult because in a sense you're fighting with your own mind to understand something which is beyond the mind.
Mooji, isn't it like you were just describing a process that we go through, like when we come to be with you, like we're all very mental, and then you take us to the heart, and then like through this, then when we're in heart energy, inquiry is a lot easier, it's a lot more natural, there's no problem. So my problem is when I'm not with you, and I'm in this mental state, and this, and then that's when I have.
With successful inquiring, if really you register your seeing, I really not just have the experience of seeing as a kind of an experience that passes, but a seeing which has got nothing to do with time. It's got nothing to do with time or mood. It's like something which is there in spite of. Like the sky is always there, in spite of whether it's really full of clouds, or if it's really blue, or if there's thunder and lightning, or if it's raining or snowing. The sky is always sky. You see? And our self is always self. But what happens is we're paying attention to the clouds and the lightning and the rainbow, and you're telling that aspect of yourself, which is the transient aspect of ourself. And our attention is looking at that because our interpreting and perceiving of those movements gives us a sense of a private life, of the, this is what's happening in my world or whatever. And it's like no one is acknowledging the sky. It's always the story of the sky. And the story of the sky is this morning it was really, really beautiful, and then these clouds came from nowhere, and then before you could know it was like lightning and thunder, and people go, wow, no, really? Like that is like wow, how disappointing. But the sky has been doing that for untold time. It's the nature of the sky to be like that. And can you imagine someone who's saying like, I really would just like to have no more of those kind of clouds. And I would just like to just get it so my life is only rainbows. And then you will sort of see just how ludicrous that is based completely on misunderstanding and a kind of fantasy. The point is, let the sky do what it does. It's the nature of the sky to, at the level of clouds, which are only the momentary effects in the sky. But the sky is all encompassing. It includes the clouds, but the clouds are kind of momentary. They're moving. But the sky, what we call sky, is not the movement, but it encompasses the movement. But you cannot look to the movement as the essence of the sky. The sky is all of it. Rainy days, cloud, lightning, thunder, summer days, all of that is sky. So you're not really looking, we're looking at our life like it's a verb, whereas the sky is like a noun in a sense. It's like, it's here, but we're looking at the movement that happens through it. Like somehow you can fix that. You can't fix this, you can't keep this. The only way you can keep it is with memory, which is to take a photograph of a cloud and to store it as though it is a living truth. So understanding is allowing what nature is doing by itself, and included in the play of nature is the play of personality, is also a cloud. And it just needs to be seen, because we think that the personality is really the one who is watching the cloud and enjoying the sky. But that's also an aspect of sky. But this is very difficult to admit and to see, because this sense of the one seeing is not like the regular thoughts which are passing, because it is so close to the feeling of being, to the I am, that it's almost never seen as a thought. It's not only a thought. It's like thought and being. But the side of this thought and being relationship, which is the most noisy, is the thought side. I don't know if you follow what I said. The being side is just the eyes, the sight that looks and sees, but not personally. When that is seen, then the feeling of person can be there, can be enjoyed, but it loses the power to plunge the attention into hypnosis. That's all that needs to happen. You stop being hypnotized by your own projections. And once that is over, once that clears, then the world becomes clean in a sense. It is clean anyway, but it was kind of dirtied through the kind of personal projection that wants to give it a particular reading, a particular personal reading, which it can feel like that in the mind, in the heart, but it's not the truth. It's just a local truth. It's a relative truth. It's a personal truth. There's no movement. There's no quality. There's no phenomenon that can happen which cannot be put in the inquiry, which cannot be, exposed through inquiry. But it does take some time for the mind to really understand and embrace the inquiry. It does take some time.
The inquiry was like very strong up until like 3 weeks ago, and now it's maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now it seems like very cloudy, and it's like I lost the.
But can I ask you something? Like this, I say, let's take for instance what you've just said, okay? Let's start there. That's just what you said. You say, the inquiry was strong up until about 3 weeks ago, and then it became really cloudy, right? But you're the one who perceived the cloudiness. Inquiry is not an object. It's not like a tool, like a telescope or something that you look at. It's a kind of more like a psychic tool. But more important than the tool is the user of the tool. Is that the user of the tool is trying to look through the telescope to see itself. You're aware of the sense of cloudiness, but something so believes in recognizing something phenomenally, then I want you to listen to this, because you believe somewhere in your mind that you're going to recognize something phenomenally, then the state of cloudiness became real for you. You understand? Because you believe there's something to see, then cloudiness became real for you. But if there was nothing phenomenal to see, what effect is cloudiness hasn't to do with anything? This is really a fundamental insight. If you think there is something to see, then immediately there comes a possibility that something can block your seeing. But if your seeing is to do with understanding who you are, which means that you don't have to go outside of your skin to look at something, then what does cloudiness have to do with anything? Because you're only looking for the seer, and the seer cannot be a product as a phenomenon to recognize. The one searching for the seer is the seer. It's not how we are trained. We are trained in a sense to be logical. But if you're attached to logics, you'll miss the simplicity of the mystery of our own being. I want you to tell me that is just too simple to miss. Always, I cannot disprove myself. I can disprove everything else, but I cannot disprove myself. I cannot say I'm not here, because I will have to be here to say I'm not here. I can say everything else is not here, but I cannot say I am not here. What you're searching for is only that which can never be not here. If you give that to your mind, it will go. That's where you go. Give it to your mind. That's what you do, basically. And you just say, oh, Mooji, that's just too much, man. I can't really do it. Okay. If you don't give it to the mind, you'll see very clearly, because even when we use the word seeing, it immediately brings in the mind something objective. Because everything that you see is something, I can see this vase, I can see the shadows, I can even see darkness. I can even see nothing. You understand? But the seer of nothing, can this be seen? Who is the one who sees nothing? Give it to your mind. Okay, good. That's what you're going to get out of it. Then you say, okay, I'm sorry, that's just not my path. My path is pranayama. Because I can get a result which is tangible. My mind can cope with that because that's tangible. It makes sense. I practice this, I get that, you know. I go to the supermarket, 10 pounds, I buy 10 pounds worth of food, I came back with, you know, okay, 5p. That's kind of logic, that makes sense. If you're trying to make sense only, then you might just miss. Somehow, sometimes also, consciousness safeguards itself from revealing the truth to consciousness, which is still got arrogance. You understand? Sometimes it reveals itself to consciousness which has arrogance in order to show what truth is like when it's got arrogance. And it's just, it's something else.
I wonder if in the end the best communicator of this is the silence.
Is the silence.
Yeah.
One has to be matured for silence.
Mm.
We have to be matured for silence. For most people, being in silence is kind of waiting for something to happen, or a bit of space of silence is there. It's become perfect background to think. Just pull the sheet of thinking over the silence. Many times we can't cope with silence in that sense. If we are we. If you're a consciousness, it's very different. If you're a person, the consciousness becomes a kind of phenomenon. You see, if you're a person, consciousness or silence becomes just a phenomenon, and you have to work with it. Something you have to do with it, or you've got to kind of be in it. But always there's a duality in it. You cannot escape the duality, because the very root of the person is based on duality. You cannot get out of duality. So silence is sometimes what we say we want when we are fed up of noise. But actually sometimes you get fed up of silence also.
Mm-hmm.
That's boredom, though, right?
You could call that, which is also another kind of phenomenon. It's not a phenomenon that is affecting the beingness.
Mm.
It's only affecting the kind of person, which is a mental construct. I would like to put it like just one thing, and we don't move to the left or the right of that one thing until you really get just that one thing. Because I can be abundant with what I say, but if we can speak about one thing and get only that one thing, just one thing, one sentence, one thing of looked at, but really get that, and everything else become easy for you. If we're looking with the mind, that one thing, after a while you get fed up and you want to change it for another thing, because that's the nature of the mind. If you look at one thing, like any point, like if you say, you know, I just really feel that this inquiry thing is not for me. Take that one thing, we start there and just look at that one thing. And if it opens up, everything else opens up for you. Because every tree, every plant, you know, is sustained by the earth at some level. So if you go to the earth, you start in the earth, you'll understand the nature of plants. If you start at a banyan tree, you'll only understand banyan trees. You won't understand coconut trees. If you understand the earth, you'll understand all the plants. If you understand yourself in the form of the I am, because I don't even want to say understand yourself at the place of the absolute, because you won't reach that straight away. Just at the place of the I am. Just understand this. Come over and over and over again, looking at it. So you go through the different states of resistance and judgment and boredom and excuses and sickness and everything that the mind will go through, many different things, just to not deal with that thing. Because from the mind's position, it's like sticking a needle in the highball. It just, no, I can't go there. That's how it feels sometimes. But you just stay with it and you see that all of that is really not true. Wouldn't it be amazing if there was a book or a teacher who taught about only one thing? Just this. If there's a pull for awakening, you want to know who you are? Okay, come. Just this thing. Nothing more. I don't know if there's something equivalent to this in the manifest world. It is like in India you have this concept like one medicine for everything. You talk about the tulsi plant, no? You need the spiritual tulsi plant for your mind. Yeah. One medicine for everything. Can you come to this point? This is what kind of excites me here. Because over the years, I think what has happened through all the YouTube and stuff, we've expounded so many things about different aspects of the human experience and how to get out of things. It's always pointing to the same thing. But I just feel, what is the simplest thing you can do? Simplest. It feels, in a sense, if I'm honest now about it, in my seeing, it's not so much that I can teach something like in one sentence, teach the truth. It's not that. But more, I feel to spend time, real time together. Because life is like that. You know, in some cases, maybe it's just something you say, and the mind needed somehow just to break, to kind of, to find a combination of the mind, and somehow click and click, 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 and click, and it drops. Maybe something like this. But in many cases, I think the Satsang is really what it said, is to associate with the truth, to be in the company somehow, because sometimes just as you are moving, something is dissolving. Just in that space. But you know what I like? Having said all this stuff, just throw it all away. I like that too. Mm-hmm. Just throw it away. And what remains? Let's start fresh again. Throw everything away, including the very identity that you have. Sweep all away. And what remains? Yeah. It doesn't have any attachment to past, to parents, to any incident in memory. It has nothing to do with this. And I'd really like to hear from someone who speaks from this place freshly. They speak something that doesn't come from the past. Because it's not true. This is why I was saying to someone, you're cheating, isn't it? I said, speak to me from now. And they said, well, actually, what tends to happen is, no, that's cheating. You're not speaking from now. You're picking up something from the past. It's not true. And if I were to say to you, don't touch past, okay? And don't go to any concept of future. Address me from address life, or address me from just what is here. It has nothing to do with inheritance. Then have I placed you in an uncomfortable position?
If it's uncomfortable, then it would be coming from mind.
Yes.
Is it normal not to know, or not to know what to say, or just nothing? Is that normal?
It's very subtle. It's very subtle. It's not even that I really want you to say something, but if something was going to come from you, what could it possibly be?
Spontaneous.
Huh?
Only spontaneous, I could say.
Yeah, something can be spontaneously nothing also. It doesn't have to be spontaneously something.
Just feels like emptiness.
For how long? How long is this emptiness?
Until the attention goes something else.
Not necessarily. This is very good. Not necessarily. I say, how long is this attention? You know? Or how long, I didn't say how long is the attention, I said, how long is the silence? How long is that space? And you said, until the attention goes somewhere else. And I said, not necessarily. One participant said, no, that all these years, someone has been coming also, I've known for a few years, saying the same thing, and only heard it now. Like only heard it here now. So what prevents us from hearing something which is very simple, and you can be told many, many times? What that says to me is that actually in life you might be collecting a lot of information, but you don't know it here. You might hear many things. You might even engage in conversations, have very strong points of view, get into fights about your points of view, but you've never really heard it or understood it here. Just stuff here. Because I know that for myself, I don't have 100 things to talk about. I don't have the interest in all of that. So it's concentrated only around this subject. And I can talk about it in different ways, but it's always the same subject. And also, there is a need or an impulse to get to the point. I like that. So when I said in Satsang that the least important factor of the relationship I have with anybody is their story. So it really confronts something inside us that seems to be fundamental. That who are you without your story? And is it anything that's worth liking or loving without the story? Because if we are searching to advertise ourselves through our story to get acceptance, understanding, familiarity, or whatever it is, will we come to a point where you see through that the story is nothing at all? We really admit it? Or is it that you cannot comprehend a life without the context of your memory and story or whatever it is? So therefore, when I say, don't go to the past, is there a way we can be here together without you referring to the past? And sometimes we have the sense you don't know how to do that. We don't know how to be without the past. Like, what would you have to do? And I said, well, you don't have to do anything at all. If you don't go, just be aware. Even, and in fact, perhaps asking this question for the first time, there would be no expectations at all, because it's naturally arising out of this kind of conversation. There would be some confusion or some noise might come, but to allow the space for that to happen, because that's also something important. Sometimes it's important to come to really a lot of confusion. Would you? Can you see through that? Can you see that? That is a place to come. That experiencing tremendous confusion and turmoil and helplessness can be a progressive point inside your own journey of looking. Because one person say, like last year I was with you on a retreat and it was a lot more successful. I felt really more, more bliss and just more space and so. And here today, in this satsang, I'm very much struggling. So in the mind says, but you're not even as good as you were last year. You're going backwards. And if you purchase this thought, then it will bring in a lot of disappointment, a lot of frustration. But can you see that somehow, sometimes noise coming up or frustration coming up, if you don't identify with it, it's just another opportunity of seeing from your true place. And in the truth, there's never a moment when you're more like you or less like you, except in the dreaming, in our dreaming states. And the thing is that we feel, through conditioning, that you only dream when you go to sleep. Nobody ever considers that you might be dreaming while you're awake. It's like saying, I draw a circle here, and you stay in the circle at least with 1 foot. You never leave. You can have 1 foot out, but you must always have 1 foot in. Okay? And I'm going to be throwing some balls at you. Sometimes you have to stretch, but you must always have 1 foot in the circle. And can you do that or not? We'll throw you some things and you catch them and you go, but you can do it or not. Of course you can do it, isn't it? You can do it. The capability is there to be aware that, okay, I know where that is, but still I'm doing this. So simultaneously, two things are happening. In the same way that I say, you can do anything at all, move with people, and still remain in your consciousness, isn't it? But if you have the sense that you cannot do it, then you already cancel an opportunity of seeing it. But all the time, if you have the feeling that if I am, like people say, I'm fine when I'm on my own in my room, but the minute I see other people, I get pulled out of myself. I said, but it's not necessarily true. But if you believe this, what a tremendous concept to take on, that you believed such a thing like this. It's like you're screwed, basically, if you say this. That the minute I see someone, or I read a book, or I watch some program, like that is enough to pull me out of myself. I said, it's not true. But what a costly concept to believe, isn't it?
Well, doesn't it point to the fact that the person who doesn't really know what their self is? They don't know to
Yeah.
pull that.
Yes. But then you stand less chance even, because you already made a conclusion that effectively closes the door.
And it's like addressing that you get pulled out of it is not the thing to address. The thing to address is that maybe they really never saw.
Yes. I'm not consciously aware of what is referred to as myself. So.
On that sliding scale, we think we know. We go into that mental place of oneness, and it's a feeling or something like this, and then we identify that as this thing that you're always talking about. Oh, sometimes I can get there. But it's really missed the whole point, you know?
Which is?
That this thing that you're pointing to isn't something. And there isn't an answer to the question.
Yeah. How do we get that? Include yourself in this question. How do we get that? I mean, how is it possible to get something which you cannot see?
Get, you mean understand?
Yeah, understand, comprehend, effectively.
By doing nothing, though. You can't do anything to do it.
Well, first of all, is it a possibility in your heart or not?
To do nothing?
No, not to do nothing, but somehow that through words spoken, as we do, is sufficient to actually trigger a recognition inside that is non-phenomenal, has nothing to do with something you can see or measure. Like you say, it cannot be anywhere, any point, or even including any of the extremes of that sliding bar of the I potential. Not even that. So it's not on that. So beyond that, the witness of this. So how do you get that point being made? How do you get it? It's possible or not? Yeah. So you say, yes, it's possible somehow.
And it's like when you say that you need a needle to remove a needle that you not had
Yeah.
or splinter. It's like that.
Yes.
You transcend. Somehow it works. Somehow you can, through words, go beyond words.
Yes.
But I don't know how.
Recognize. This is truth. You don't know how.
It's intuition or something.
Yes. Yeah. You don't know how. In terms of method, you don't know how. In fact, there's a lot of life that just happens and you don't know how. You don't know how life. You read it in textbooks, so we think we know how. We accept a certain viewpoint or something, and you embrace that and speak of that as though it is a fact. We do it actually. But how do you actually understand something? You don't know how you understand. Thankfully, you don't have to prove that. You see, to someone else. You just have to know that, but I understand somehow. That's one of the great kindnesses of life. That I don't have to prove to you that I understand. But if you understand somehow, something is inside you, something changes. That maybe cannot be measured in a test tube, but you have other ways of measuring, of knowing that. So you don't have to know how it works. And this for me is really the real gem of the kind of introspections we share together. Sometimes I ask people in Satsang, you've been practicing inquiry or some spiritual practice, whatever spiritual practice? They say, yeah. Okay, where have you come to in your practice? Because I want to know. I've been doing something for 15 years. Okay, what have you found in this practice? Then we can see what is left, if there's something left. And I feel so, it's such an important thing to ask you. With the inquiry, okay, what have you found? What is your highest attainment through the inquiry? What have you really conquered through the inquiry? What have you seen? You see? And in conversations like this, it's not possible everywhere to have a conversation like this. It's not possible. There has to be some inner openness. There has to be a certain amount of maturity. There has to be. Otherwise, there's no attraction, there's no pull to take this question. So your mind will actually go to the level that is most comfortable to function at. And whether it's football or the lottery or whatever it is, it will go there more easily. So if we can speak about these things at some length, it must be that there's some resonance in you for that. Maybe that resonance is fighting with other resonances that we share out amongst other things. Maybe it's just one of a number of things that you are attracted to. I don't know. But here there's nothing else that's worth looking at this deeply. That really pushes you beyond your comfort zone in terms of what you, because you can live like this, you can live without really going very deep. You can live anywhere in the world actually without going very deep in yourself, because we transact at a very shallow level, the human interaction. But to really bring your conversation so your attention, your comprehension has come so fine to a point where it's all in this space, the looking has come down to this. That's not narrow-mindedness. It's just a kind of focus. Narrow-mindedness is going like this all the time. No, I'm talking about coming like this. Coming to a point. Where can we come? Can we come to a place where there's not any future for words at the psychological level? Can you come to this place? That you really use words at their highest potential of words is to do what? Obviously, you cannot just be to gossip or to, write some fantasy. The highest potential of a language must be for something.
I want to say to convey this, but it's not even that, it's just to be living this.
It has to be to come to recognition of where the words cannot go any further. The words must at some point take your attention back to a place beyond which words cannot go anymore. Because words came after you, not before you. So they must take you back to a place to where you were before words came.
Is it naive to say that to let the words go into your heart and let them do?
They do that automatically. What I'm trying to convey, because sometimes we think we have to do work which the universe is already doing for free. Sometimes we think in our mind, like I've got to try and see if I can make those words go into my heart or something. But that's just extra work that nobody gave you. It's enough that if you're attracted to something, you're stimulated by it, it goes directly into your heart anyway. No extra help is needed. If there's an aspiration for something, like you really want to find out something, then if that comes to you, then that aspiration must fall away and be replaced by contentment, or satisfaction. And I've got to admit to you something, actually. I cannot even be serious about this anymore. It's funny like this. Like now, it's like I cannot even be serious about it. I used to take it more seriously. Like, guys, you gotta get this.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I even say, you really gotta get this. But it doesn't seem to have such a deep impact on me anymore. It's just like pastime, the talk. It's like my greatest pleasure is to be sitting with you and have your attention at the level that we can look. And whatever comes of that, let's see, come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like a mission, It was never really like a mission.
It seems like it sometimes.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just part of the play. Well, actually, it's sometimes it's serious, I have to say, because it's got some vested interest, I guess. Because the more I can find affinity with people looking this way, the more I have good company. It's true. It's true because you're also finding it that the more you go into yourself, you're finding less company amongst people who, even though you love them, but you see that, wait a minute, we're still at a level of a kind of fish and chips consciousness. That's where we can live at this level for quite a long time, and then it won't be able to sustain any meaningful communion with you. You start to feel like you're starving in your being. So no wonder maybe people are afraid to lose out on the abundance of the mundane. Because you can't run out of friends. There's so much on that level, you can keep going. But the minute you begin to dive deep, You begin to feel the singularity of your being. And can you bear it, is it? Or is there such a strong intention or urge to be in the community of the mundane that this is not enough of an attraction or something? I
I'll find that one out soon enough.
And is it a sadness?
Which part?
When you say return to familiar territory to some degree, and you're unable to really relate from the heart in that way, because it's not that you're going to go to the world and relate to the world from the heart, but they're only relating from the head, because you can't do it.
But if you're less of a person in the world, then it becomes easy,
Thank you.
right?
Thank you. What becomes easy?
Just being in the world also.
You know why it's easy? It's easy only because you don't expect anything from anybody. Only because of that, actually, because you don't expect someone to fulfill your yearning.
And you don't care so much about what they think about you and all those things.
Yes. But it's not coming from an arrogance.
No.
It's not coming from an arrogance. It's just that it's a kind of sanity. Because if your life really depends on how people perceive you, then we're really in bondage. We're really in bondage. And you do see it, that someone who is hypersensitive about how others perceive them, you see that they're already in trouble. Because even the people they're talking about is not nowhere around to be seen, but they are suffering from the connection in their own mind. Even.
Mooji, what do you think is it that attracts us to what you're pointing to? Like normally it seems like only when things happen to us that's totally blow our mind and we don't choose it, that then it pushes us towards the edge. But like with you, it's like everyone wants to look, what is he pointing at? And it's like as if we were wanting to go there, but in a way it's still hard.
I think what happened is that at an unconscious level, it is our higher aspiration. We're just not aware of it yet. And maybe somebody comes along and in that kind of space, you suddenly become aware, that but there's some possibilities here that are exciting to my soul or something, you see. But it can be explained that at an unconscious level, there's always a pull inside you, a potential that's now less aspiring towards the world in a way, but there is still, maybe that can be there too, but there is still a pull towards spiritual truth or something. So I'm more wanting to agree with this, because it's not that you're conscious of wanting this and go searching for it. Sometimes it seems accidental, that your steps seem to bring you to a place. You may seem outwardly, your mind may seem outwardly not interested in anything like that, but a kind of curiosity or an accident, throws you into a space, and then somehow your life changes in a way, and can change so powerfully that it can seem to sail by some lives that seem to be at this for a long time. Some people, the life can change and somehow quickly. I remember a passage in the Bible that refers to this, like the first shall be last and the last first or something. Sometimes people at the very end come and go to the very front somehow, But back to the point, what is it that draws you? I can only at the moment say it must be that there's a higher wish inside and some kind of inner orientation or a vibration that's more in affinity with this, although it might take your conscious mind to recognize that. I mean, why maybe you're in a crowd of 5 people that seem to have a similar kind of interest, but you encounter this type of opportunity and you're so drawn to it that you may even part company with them for a while just because you need to feed here at this place. my larger feeling about this is that everyone is in satsang. All the beings are in satsang. But it just may take a while before they become consciously, like aware that there is something that they're pulled towards like this. And I remember one time I came out of my bath and I pulled the plug, I told you, pull the plug. And just drying off and just somehow for some reason was noticing the bath, when you just wash you got some dirt and scum and whatever it is in the bath. And I have a very good suction on my bath so the water leaves very fast, and I'm kind of watching it. And you see that near the hole there's a kind of swirl, like a inverted tornado or whatever. Everything's going there. And then further back you go towards the other end of the bath, the water is just bubbling.
Mm-hmm.
It's still within the magnetic field, the pull of that hole. But here, if you only looked here, you wouldn't notice it. It's just bobbing up and down. But somehow, seeing from bird's eye view of it, you know the destiny of this one. That as it comes here, it starts to take much more directions pulling. When it comes to here, it's almost like got nothing to do, but we can use language like surrender, or it just has to go. And I saw something very universal in that dirty bathwater. That somehow maybe all the beings are in this bath of life, and some that's nearer to that place of absorption in the heart, the pull is more powerful, the magnet is more powerful, and quickly they go. And the ones in the middle, they're sensing like they're on a journey, they can feel the pull, like, they're moving, but they don't feel as yet that chop. And then maybe a bit further on, it's still the same one water, but a bit further back, it's kind of like, something is going down, but it's not going there yet. And it just felt like a beautiful seeing. Like everyone is somehow on this journey, but in some lives it doesn't seem so evident. They may be going like this a bit and so on, they're going like this, but if you could look from above, they're going like this and they're going like that, they're going like this, but they're still being pulled in a direction. Not by local or personal choice, but just by cosmic will. Everything is coming to that whole. And I was saying that sometimes we come to this place and some beings, they're kind of like this over them. They don't want to go down that hole. Because if it's something like is still in the mind, it's death. And I would say, look down there and see the face of Ramana or of Christ or something. And then maybe it won't be so terrifying for you. And it's nothing at the mind's level, it can feel terrifying, but already by the time you come to this place, you're in the orientation of that pull, and it's just like a deliverance. It's just like this. You can't wait or something. But it's just images. It's just images. I really do like, sometimes we speak like this, and I say, just throw everything away. Just throw it away. Yeah, because if I feel like the mind is building up some plaque, and it's okay, just throw it away. And each time you put the axe to the tree, and you say, throw it away, something is left that is just clean. Start fresh, and don't build. And be in the ambient of that. This is fresh. And when it's like this, you can build any direction, but you never come. It's like you can reach to catch anything, but your foot never leaves this circle. And then after a while, you don't even have to look for where the circle is. It's just something you know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to go to bed with this type of contemplation. Like it's good to go to bed, reciting a mantra or making a prayer, so that the last contact your consciousness have is with some sattvic energy.